Welcome to the weekly demo offered by the Inclusive Organization Technology team within the International Permaculture CoLab. This project is made possible through funding received from the Next Steps project, which is a funded project within the International Permaculture CoLab. If you would like to know more about this project, you can visit www.perma.earth. The link is also available in the video description. All right, so today's demo is going to be about Nextcloud Forms specifically, but I wanted to give a short explanation about what is Nextcloud if you are not familiar with it. And we'll follow the usual process explaining pricing, features, and how you can access this, this app. So Nextcloud in general is an open source software that lets you use multiple apps in one place. I would say it's a good open source alternative to Google Drive. It has much of the same apps inside it. Here on nextcloud.com, I will also share a link in the description. You can find all the information you want to know about Nextcloud in general. The Digital Circle, which is a part of the International Permaculture CoLab, also offers Nextcloud accounts. So if you don't want to self-host this for yourself, because maybe you don't have that many files and you don't need your own installation, you can ask to use the International Permaculture CoLab instance, and for a small fee, you can have your own Nextcloud without having to go through the installations. So that's a short preview. We'll come back to this later in the access part of the demo. And this is in a nutshell Nextcloud. You can access more information here on their website about it. On the App Store, you will be able to see what kind of apps you can have. So you can see there's a lot of these. But in today's demo, we're going to focus on the Forms app. Once you have your access to the Nextcloud sorted, so if you are using someone else's instance or if you want to host your own, once that's sorted, then the apps inside it are mostly free. In this case, in the Nextcloud Forms, this is also free and you can find it in the App Store. It's very simple. If you will be using the International Permaculture CoLab instance, then this is already freely available to you. As you can see up top here, there are all the apps that are available on this instance, and the ones that I want is Forms. Here it is. So before I move on to the features in terms of pricing, this really depends on your setup for Nextcloud. If you're going to self-host it, then you will have some costs in terms of your server cost, perhaps. If you are going to access it through the CoLab, then you can have a look at the pricing here. I will also include a link and more information about the Digital Circle offer in the description of the video. Monthly Nextcloud contribution for small size organization up to 10 users. It's at €12 per month. And we have also consultation services and so on. If you are a single user wanting to use it and you are not a CoLab member, because it is free for CoLab members within working groups, then you can also talk to us about what fee would that be and how much storage space that would include. So that's in terms of pricing, and then we can launch into the features already. So here I'm using the CoLab instance. And if I go on Forms, it automatically shows me select a new form or create a new one. And on the side here, on the left-hand side, it tells me which forms are already there. I'm going, for the sake of the demo, I'm going to create a new form. I'm gonna say open source demo feedback. I can use your description. As you can see here, the responses are connected. It says the responses are connected to your account. That's mostly for users that already have accounts. In this case, so obviously to create a new form, you have to have an account. In this case, it's going to be linked with my account, which means I will be able to see the responses. And I'm going to add a couple of questions. You can see here, you can have one with checkboxes and add an answer. So that's that type of question. Then we have radio buttons. Every question comes with the option to add a description. It's got a drop-down option. A short answer. This is where it gives you free text. And also long text. You have a date option. And the time. It's really helpful for picking out appointments. So that's all of the types of answers and question format that you can have. And so that's basically how I formulate. I can always edit, I can move answers around. So test 2 is now first. I can delete answers if I no longer want them. I can shuffle the options. I can elect it as required. I can add other, as you can see, other there. And I can copy the question. So that creates basically duplicate, right? At the bottom. Creating a copy also, it allows you to make the work faster. So if you need to ask the question in a different way, for example, or just the same type of question and add the answers, this is a quick way to do it. And I go back up again. I can also add an ID, which is a technical name for the question. That could be, for example, demographics. one. It's just an example, right? I can view it to see what it will look like to other people. Remember, I added the other option and the required option on the first one. So as soon as it's required, it will show me a star next to the title. And with the other, it gives me the option to add another answer. So if I click that, something else, it's my other answer. And with checkboxes, you're allowing multiple entries, right? So they can take all that is relevant. With radio question, you're only allowed to pick one. This is the drop-down one and two. Here's your free text. Date option opens into a calendar. Time option opens into a time picker. And this is duplicate from before. Let's say that if I submit it, it says thank you for completing the form. Then as the person who is managing this form, I can look at the results. And you can see here on the top, there's a few options. So this is the summary of the results, which will give me all the results in one summary option. In this case, you can see how many people picked other and other answer and how many people, yeah, basically going through it, all the different answers there. And they're the same at the bottom. That's one view. That's if I want to see an aggregate view of the results. And then I could also see each individual response. So that gives me my name because I have an account and I'm logged in. And when it was completed, the different answers for each one. I can delete the response from here. So if you make tests for your form, you can delete them if you no longer want them. And you can also create a spreadsheet. If I click create a spreadsheet, it will ask me where I want it. Let's say I just want it on the main page, and I can create it in different formats. So I want, maybe I want an XLS or a CSV or an ODS. In this case, I'll go for the ODS. So that's already done. If I go in my folder, in my files view, you can see that the file has appeared here. Open source demo for feedback form responses. I can click on it. And I can see that that's produced a table with the questions on the top and my answers underneath. Something else I want to show you. From here, you would be able to export it as a PDF. You can download it as any of these formats. So you can still download it as XLS, ODS, or CSV if you want to. And there's an option to print it as well. So these are the different options, right? If I close this and I go back to my forms, which is up here, you can see that the form now appears on my left with one response. So I want to click on it. If I click on edit, that I can still edit the form even though it's live. And if I click on share, which is the last option I wanted to show you, this gives you the sharing options. Here you can see permit access to all logged accounts, yes or no. So when people go on the forms, they'll be able to see it. I can share an internal link with people who have access to this, and I can give people access. So for example, here's a list of users. If I wanted to use it with the IoT team, I can find the IoT team right there. So the IoT group now has access. They can, here I can change the permissions. I want them to view responses and delete responses if they don't, if they want. And I can delete their permissions if I no longer want to share it. So if I share the internal link with the IoT group, they'll be able to access it, but other people won't be able to. I can toggle this switch if it shows to people who are logged in. This is like a general permit access. In this case, I don't want to do that. And there's also an option to create a share link that's specific. So the first one it creates, you can create an embeddable link for this share link. You can remove link and add link. You can, if you keep adding links, you can give them different rights. In this case, I don't need to do that. In the settings, this is where you can really do stuff with your form, and this is important. You can store responses anonymously. This allows, for example, multiple responses per person. You can set an expiry date. This changes the text up here. Did you see that? So if I toggle it back here, it says first one is disabled. It says responses are connected to your account. And then it says responses are anonymous. So depending on the nature of your form, you can decide how to do this. You can set an expiration date. This is useful for exercises that have a set time frame. You can close the form also at any point. In this case, the form is closed, meaning that anyone with a link will not be able to see that it's open. If I click on view, does that tell me? Yeah, it says form closed right now. If I reopen it, it will show the form again. I can archive the form once I'm definitely no longer using it. It can't be edited after I have archived it, and it won't be able to accept new submissions. And I can also customize the submission message. So here I could say, thank you for your feedback, and something related to what the form is about. Important thing to remember with forms is that you can also transfer ownership. So if you are no longer in charge of this project or doing this sort of task within the team, you can transfer ownership to a person who is still doing that. And that's super easy. You just click on it and it warns you what happens, basically this. And you have to type specific things to confirm it. In this case, it cannot be undone. So, but someone else who has the form can transfer it back to you, but you can't undo it from your side, is what it means. Okay. If you're going to allow people who don't have a Nextcloud access to submit the responses, and you don't mind that people are submitting anonymously, but you would like to collect their information if they want to share it with you, then you can add questions like your name and so on here. So for example, if I edit this, I could add here at the bottom, I could say short answer. If you would like us to contact you about this survey and or about your answers, please leave your name and email below. And basically it lets people fill in information. If they don't want to be contacted, then they can leave it blank because I haven't marked it as required. Right. And that will put all the information, or maybe just the email, so then you don't have two fields in one answer. That's helpful. It gives you an email list of people you can contact as a follow-up, if there's a follow-up questions to their answers or anything like this. I think it's also nice to give the people the option of privacy, but that's up to you, and it depends on what the form is being used for. Once you are happy with your look of the form and you have made sure that the questions that are important are marked as required, and you have tested it, then you can share the view link here. If I share form link is copied, if I open it in another browser here, this is what it will look like for people who are not logged in. Basically the same, but it just doesn't give them the options up top like you saw with the other one. So I complete it here. Some texts here. Testing. Let's say I don't want to pick a date and time because it's not required. I don't have to. And you can contact me on mail at amyfanlab.com. Submit. It says thank you for completing the form. And then for the person that's managing this form, they refresh their form view. They can see now, you see that there's a 2 next to that. So that means that has 2 responses. You can click on it. You can go on results. And remember, the first view is always summary. So that tells me now there's 2 people who picked the first option, for example. And there's responses, which gives me the thesis. So because I wasn't logged in this time, it gave me an anonymous response. But because I have put in my email address for you to contact me later, then you still have a kind of point of contact. So it really depends on the use case, what is the use of the form and how you want to use it. As always, it gives me the opportunity to delete the response if I want to do that. And here it gives me some extra options because this one's linked already to the spreadsheet. You remember we had the spreadsheet. I can save a copy to files, I can download it, I can delete all responses if I want to, I can re-export the sheet. If I click re-export the sheet, that has updated my spreadsheet from before. So if I go on my files, now it has 2 responses. You can see in the second one where it was anonymous, it has no user ID because I wasn't logged in. You can make these a bit more visible by adjusting that. And here's your mailing list. So you can export these into a mailing list and then send people communications through your mailing list software if you have one. Okay. So important that you have to re-export it, otherwise it doesn't automatically update. So that's something you have to do from the forms view, re-export spreadsheet, right? From the results. You can also unlink the spreadsheet if you no longer want to use that. These are the share options like we saw before. And the settings, so you can always tweak the settings. That's all the features that this form has. As you can see, it's pretty basic. I think it's minimalistic, which is helpful for people who have low bandwidth issues. So it doesn't take a long time to load for people. It's quick and easy. You can add as many questions as you like. There's no limit to this. The results can be exported. So then from the results, you can create graphs and other graphics, maybe using some other software. Everything is integrated and quick. Now we're going to talk about access. So how can you get to use this? As I mentioned, Nextcloud can be self-hosted, and you can have a look at the instance trial here. It has an instance trial you can test it with. Just have to complete this information. You can use someone else's instance. Remember that the instance is free, the instance, so to self-host it, it won't cost you any money. You can here have a look at the pricing models. And here are the hosted options. So this is where you want to use the Nextcloud service to do it. And you can see basically how that works. These are the options that are offered by Nextcloud themselves, by the Nextcloud team. If you want to self-host it, then you can do that. This is the Circle Cloud Run server. And in the App Store, you'll be able to find Nextcloud. And basically, it's a one-click install, and then you have to configure it. If you don't want to self-host it, and if you maybe want a simpler solution than what's being offered by the Nextcloud team, if you are a CoLab member, this is important. If you are a CoLab member and part of a CoLab working group within the CoLab, then access to the Nextcloud CoLab instance is free. You can ask about it in the Digital Circle channel. If you are not a CoLab member or you are a CoLab member but would like to use it for other working groups that are not inside the CoLab, then you can opt for our Digital Circle offer, which is here, €12 per month for up to 10 users. The Nextcloud hosted one is starting at 100 users for the basic, at $37.49 per user. So this is more for larger groups. It's important to make this distinction, right? So if these are not your needs because you don't have 100 users, then, and you don't want to have a self-hosted server, then opting for the Digital Circle service for 10 users for €12 per month is a very good deal. And if you are a CoLab member working within a CoLab working group, then that service is already paid for by the International Permaculture CoLab digital service contract that they have with the Digital Circle. So these are all the different access options. Once you decide which one is good for you, then you will be provided with a user account, such as this one. All you would need to do is go to cloud.perma.earth and log into your account. Once you have an account, you get to the login page, you log in with your user or email and password, which will be provided to you. And you just simply log in. It's pretty straightforward. And once you're in, you are presented with your dashboard, and on the top, as you can see here, all the different apps that are available to you, including the Form app. In the next weeks, we're going to cover a few more of these apps because they're very useful for teams who are working together, maybe getting feedback from outside the team and so on. And so each of these different apps can help your team organize themselves better. I think that's all for today's demo. We have covered pricing, we have covered features, and we have covered access. If you want to follow up on the offer by the Digital Circle, I will leave a link for you in the description so you can do this. And if you have any questions, you can send them by email, or you can simply comment on this video and someone will get back to you.